Hello from the Bayer Water Utilization Learning Center. My name is Alex Rosa, Learning Center agronomist. Today in this beautiful Friday afternoon, sunshine, 75 degrees after we have a week with a couple days that were more misty, kind of rain, chill temperatures. We have this beautiful way to end the week. And the topic of today's video, we are going to cover a little bit more or expand more on the cover crop planting as we are approaching harvesting. These beans are quite ready or almost there for us to harvest. Same for corn. So it's that time where we need to plan what's going to be next. Some of you might do wheat, others are interested in cover crops, and that's what we are going to cover here. Things like planting date, seeding rate, seeding depth, and also some species that we can use to fulfill the ultimate goals of you as a producer. Stay with us. Okay, so to get started, let's talk about planting date and species selection, as those two things are very tied together. I mentioned about we are harvesting soybeans and corn here in the next couple weeks. So we are late September, early October, so kind of an ideal time to get those cover crops planted in the ground, right? And as we think about having maybe the month of October and parts of November as growing degree units still to accumulate for those cover crops, we have to keep in mind what's our goal when we are implementing those cover crops, right? So to think on the standpoint of temperatures, we have a very narrow window for growth now in the fall. So any winter sensitive species such as radishes need to be planted right away. So let's say you're harvesting soybeans next week, you must have a game plan to implement your radishes in the day or next day after you take those beans out of the ground, okay? Now, if we are looking at having some biomass for the spring, so you want to go with winter hardy species, and here the most common ones can be the grass species such as cereal rye or even winter wheat that can be used both as a grain crop or as a cover crop, right? Another option would be choose a legume crop. Here we have hairy vetch and we also have winter peas. Those two species can handle pretty well the cool temperatures that we have around here in Nebraska. And of course, by adding that legume in the system, we are looking at adding more nitrogen, adding those nitrogen credits that can be quite useful, especially if we are coming back with corn in the next year. And we also have the mixes, right, where we can combine those different species with different purposes in the mix. Let's say, for instance, you have cereal rye that can overwinter, and you can pair it up with a couple legume crops such as clover or hairy vetch, and you can add a brassica there, such as purple top turnip that can have a fast grow now in the fall, build some canopy with the days remaining that we have here of warmer temperatures and also the sunlight. Now let's dive more in detail in the main cover crops such as cereal rye, okay? And when we are thinking to establish that cereal here after harvest, if we are planting that early, let's quote this because I mean we are talking about early September, so it's not early for cereal rye, but it's what we have. We can play with some seeding rates starting at 60 pounds an acre if we are drilling, right? If we are broadcasting, it's always a good idea to bump those numbers up, like go more towards 100 pounds. And also if we're planting very late, let's say you are harvesting corn late October, you might be willing to be planting cereal rye at those 100 or even 120 pounds an acre, depending on the scenario you have. That's kind of similar for wheat. If you are going towards the grain, it's a little different, but as a cover crop, you can kind of use the same concept of cereal rye, 1 to 2 inches deep in seeding depth here, okay? Now looking at hairy vetch, we are talking about 15 to 20 pounds an acre. You can see by the seed size that this legume crop has, okay? And a shallower seeding depth, we are talking half an inch or close to an inch would be ideal for hairy vetch at this time. And finally, winter pea, where we are looking at 50 to 65 pounds per acre seeding rate, 1 inch seed depth to establish here in the fall. And one important factor to consider is the drought that we are having here in Nebraska, especially in the central and western portions of the state. So the soil moisture is pretty low. That's a factor to consider if you're implementing cover crops here. Let's say you are harvesting soybeans, you might check the weather, see if there is any rain forecasted in the next few weeks, so you can implement that trial or maybe bump a little bit your seeding rate to account for those difficult establishment. That's kind of the scenario we had here in the Learning Center in 2021, where we seeded cereal rye and wheat in a very dry soil, and we could have some, but not much moisture in the winter, that when we had this biomass in the spring, we were pretty happy and surprised with the good results that we got. So always keep in mind the moisture, and also, of course, as you look forward for your corn and soybeans in 2023, be on the watch for those water use that cover crops can have and manage them accordingly. That's a topic for a future video. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the Gothenburg Water Utilization Learning Center. For more information, please call 308-537-4500.